Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. City Manager Jason Slowinski here with you again. Hey, listen, I wanted to take a minute today, just chat at you a little bit about our plans to welcome the public back to some of our facilities starting next week. We had sent a survey last week, and I want to thank everyone who's taken part of that. We had over 160 responses, great responses. Good suggestions in the responses, and we've incorporated a lot of that into our plans as we look to slowly reopen everything and get the public back to our facilities. So starting next week, we're going to reopen some of our administrative offices at City Hall and the City Hall Annex and Public Works and Planning and other facilities. But we're only going to do it Tuesday through Thursday, and it's going to be by appointment only. So that we have better control over the number of people accessing our facilities. Mondays we'll reserve for court over at City Hall, and then Fridays we won't have public access to our buildings on that particular day, although we will still be working. But part of the reason for that is to allow flexibility in scheduling for our department directors. We still want to encourage remote working for many as much as possible, so that we can achieve some social distancing in our facilities the best that we can. A couple of things that we're going to put into place based on good practice and also some of the suggestions you all had. I know and what was important to you was hand sanitizer available, making sure our buildings were clean, and having the public wear masks. So we're going to do all those things. When the public comes into our building, we're going to ask them to wear a mask. We're going to have them available for folks, and we're going to ask them to social distance. We're going to step up our cleaning efforts of our buildings, potentially putting another contract into place to make sure that public areas are cleaned as much as possible. And I'd ask your cooperation in keeping your own personal spaces clean the best you can. We'll make sure we have supplies on hand to make that happen. And we'll have hand sanitizer for all of you as well. We'll ask our employees to do the same as we do the public, to social distance where they can. If you're eating lunch together, try to maintain 6 feet between each of you. If you're passing each other in the halls, try to maintain 6 feet. I know it's not always possible, but let's do our best to make that happen. You'll be asked to fill out a form each workday, just indicating you don't have symptoms of COVID-19. And we're going to appoint safety coordinators for each of our facilities so that as we move into the weeks ahead, that group can meet together and discuss improvements we might be able to make going forward or needs that we need to consider. And lastly, I want to just make a point about and talk a little bit about masks. I know there's perhaps some confusion about what's required of our employees. So I want to add a little bit of clarity to it for you. Mask wearing is important, and for a number of reasons. But we need to do our part to try to wear masks as much as possible. Now, I don't expect it if you're in your office, if you're in your cubicle, if you're in your own vehicle. If you don't have a mask on, that's not the end of the world. But if you are around your colleagues and your coworkers and the public, and working in close proximity to each other, we need to have our masks on. If we're out in common spaces in our buildings, break rooms, restrooms, going out to the restroom, we need to have our masks on. One of the things I've been doing during this whole pandemic is listening in and meeting virtually with our state public health officials twice a week for the most part. Now it's gone down to once a week. I know mask wearing has gotten political the last several months, and quite frankly, it's all BS. I don't listen to it. But what I do listen to is the people who are in the know on the public health side. And as I listen to these calls every week, one of the concerns, particularly this last week, in modeling data going forward, is that there's pretty much unanimous agreement from public health officials that we're going to see some kind of additional outbreak again this fall. Timing's uncertain and severity's uncertain, but a lot of the models show that it could even be worse than it was in April when we saw March and April when we saw a peak. So if you didn't like going through it in March and April, and I know I didn't, I'm not looking forward to going through it again in the fall, but the way we help make that as least impactful as possible is to keep social distancing and to wear masks when we're around each other and our coworkers. That's going to help the situation, and that's why we should do it. I know they're uncomfortable, and I know it can be a pain to wear them, but it is important. We're going to provide them if you don't have one. We've got some cool ones on order, some City of Golden masks that we're going to have on order. You have your pandamas, and we'll also have other paper masks available. So if you don't have one, we'll make sure we have one for you. But feel free to bring your own mask that you have as well. We're happy to see that as well. So that's why we're requiring it when you're around other folks. It's important. If you're working by yourself or you're in your office or something, I don't expect that you have it on. And I think that's a reasonable approach to try to accommodate that need. Last thing I want to mention, well, a couple of things. One of the things I want to mention is because we're not meeting in person and we're not interacting as much with the public in meetings, I'm going to relax our dress code for a while. So for those who are in the office, if you want to, and who are able, if you want to wear jeans and dress down, I'm okay with that. At some point, we'll go back to what's considered normal, but for the time being, I'm happy to accommodate that. And lastly, as we get into next week and the weeks ahead, if you have thoughts, questions, feedback, concerns about our facilities and how things are going, we've set up an email address, staysafe@cityofgolden.net, and you're free to email us any comments or suggestions or feedback you have, and we'll consider it and try to improve the situation. Attached to this email is a document that has all the protocols we'll start to introduce in our facilities. And if you have questions about it, it's much more detailed than what I went through. But if you have questions, feel free to reach out to your department director or human resources, and we're happy to discuss whatever questions might be coming up and put out additional information. So with that, I know it's kind of a lot to throw at you, but I wanted to touch base and just let you know where we're at. Again, I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate what you do for the city, and I'm looking forward to seeing many of you back at work and helping move things forward for our great city. So thanks for what you do. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you stay safe, and we'll see you all real soon.